All right. Hello, everyone. I think they got everything working here. So let's just start. Let's just go right into it. So my name is Fortunato Frattasio, and I'm going to be doing a little 1 hour webinar on unveiling the magic behind compositing, which is one of the disciplines to visual effects. I'm going to share my screen, and the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little video of different types of compositing work that we do at our school. So just give me 1 second here, and let me just put the video up. Okay, so I've got the video here up on the screen. And so let's just go through different types of examples of compositing work and things that we go through when we are doing composites. I'm going to put the volume a little bit lower. So these are examples of projections. This is something that we often do when we have to replace something. And then, of course, there's green screen compositing, where you have to put actors in a scene. And the importance of things like this is that to make sure that they're always sitting into the scene, not just as far as position is concerned, but as far as color, depth of field. So these are just different projects that we've done at the school where we've removed an actor from a scene and then replaced them with a student. Just keep going through these. So as you can see, the actor was shot on a green screen, and we are positioning them in the background, color correcting them, and making it look like they were always there to begin with. Integration. This can take on many, many different forms. Screen inserts is one of them. Obviously, whenever we're shooting anything, we want to leave the screen inserts blank so that we can put in, whatever it is that we want and make it play according to the scene. So these are examples of screen inserts where we created the motion graphics. Logo replacements, set extensions. These are object removals, which could, take on many different forms like wire removals, rig removals, limb removals, as you can see over here. Digital makeup, another thing that really, really makes up a big part of our business and what we do, de-aging. A lot of times you're watching movies and a character, we need the character to look 10 to 15 years younger because we want to do a flashback. So a lot of work is done in de-aging them. This is something that we're going to look at in detail. Or sometimes it could be digital enhancement if we want to enhance certain aspects of a scene. In those cases over there, one of them we added more blood. This one we're just making the veins pop out because the character is supposed to look like it's freezing. Cosmetic fixes is another thing that we do. Rotoing out elements so that we can place them onto a different background is something that's done almost all the time. In this case, we've got the woman that we rotoed out and put her in a different scene. And then, of course, there's compositing 2D elements. Over here, we're creating some ghost effects using strictly 2D stock elements that we found. As you can see over here, all of the ghost was shot on a green screen and comped in, but everything around it was all just a bunch of smoke elements that we found. And then, we basically had to make it look like it belonged to the ghost. This now over here is a combination of 2D and 3D elements. So the 3D part of this would be the knife or the sword, as you're going to see in a few seconds. And then the 2D part of it is all of the blood splats. So the sword is a 3D element, which we've animated, textured, and lit. And then all of the blood that you see on the sword, all of the blood splats we added later. And then last but not least, simply CG elements where we're compositing computer-generated elements onto a background. So some of these bananas aren't real, and they're supposed to look like they match all the other ones. The Oscar is not real. And so we were given a 3D model, and we had to color it. And then over here is just a bunch of particle elements that we added to the scene so that we could make people's heads blown off, and, or in this case, have something explode in the background. So all of the elements that you see over here in the middle of the scene, those are all computer generated elements that are done by our effects department that we had to take in and color correct so that they sit into the scene properly. So what you've just seen here is an example of different types of compositing. And we're going to dive in right now and just look at how some of this stuff is done. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing this. And I'm just going to stop this over here. I see that there's a couple of messages in the chat. I'm going to respond to some of these questions. Let's start by diving in and looking at one type of compositing, which is green screen compositing. So I'm going to share my screen again, and this time we're going to look at a green screen composite and see how we put something like this together. So what you see over here is a woman on a background, and let me just show you what the woman looks like first. So they started by giving us this green screen element. I'm going to buffer it so that you can see what it looks like. So here's a green screen element of a woman on a green background. And what you see over here are a bunch of tracking markers. So the tracking markers are there so that I can take that information and give it to something else that's going to need that information. So in this case over here, I'm going to create a background that I want to composite her on. And that background is going to have the same camera movement as this green screen. So first, what I start by doing is I start by tracking these trackers over here. So what you see over here is basically X and Y information. You're going to see these numbers move. So this is basically X and Y information. Once I have that X and Y information, I check it. So in this case over here, I'm just going to put this color wheel over it, and I have to make sure that it's following it perfectly. Once I can see that it's following it perfectly, then I know that my track is working. And so I'm going to just put this aside for now, and I'm going to use that track for something else. So she was shot on the green screen over here with all of these tracking markers. But before I could even start compositing her onto a background, I need to remove the tracking markers. So the tracking markers were very necessary, but now I need to remove them. And this is a very difficult process, especially in this case, because she's got a lot of the tracking markers that are going behind her hair. And what's important is that I have to make sure that when I remove the tracking markers, I'm not removing even 1 pixel of the actual image. So you can see over here, every time she goes in front of a tracking marker, you can see I'm restoring every little bit of hair that she has. So we started with this, then we come over to this over here. So now I need to key her out. So in other words, I need to extract her from the green screen. So there's a lot of different keying tools that we have available. What I'm using right here is Nuke, and I'm going to give you one example of a keying tool, which is Keylight. I'm just going to do this one from scratch. So I'm going to bring Keylight on. I'm going to attach it to this. And what Keylight does is it's a color keyer, and it being a color keyer allows me to go and pick a certain color, and it's going to extract everything that's in the range of that color. So within the node over here, you see I've got a color picker. I'm going to try to grab a color that is very, very, very close to her edges. And you'll see right away that it's already extracted. It's done an okay job. Of course, I need to go and fine tune all of this over here. But it's done a decent job. Usually we use two different types of keyers. We either use color keyers like I'm doing here, in which, like I said before, there's a certain color that needs to be extracted, or I could use an image-based keyer. An image-based keyer is where you're basically comparing a clean plate, an original plate, and it extracts the matte based on that. So you see, this one seemed to do a much better job. There's a lot of fixing that still needs to go on. So I'm going to go through different areas of the matte just to remove any of the excess stuff that you see in the background. So you're going to see over here, I'm just going to keep going down and cleaning this up to make it better. Here's a little bit more, a little bit more. Let's just reveal all of this over here. And so now I've got a clean matte. Before I go any further with this, the first thing that I'm going to check is I'm going to see what this looks like compared to my original image. So what I want to do, what I need to do is I need to make sure that the edges of the green screen element and my matte are precisely 1:1. I don't want the matte to stick out any more than it has to. I don't want it to be eroded in any more than it has to. It's got to be 1:1. So once I'm sure that this is okay, I know that I have my matte. And before I go any further with this, I'm going to go and start taking a look at the background. For the background, I'm basically going to take a bunch of different elements, put them together over here. So I'm taking this cityscape and I'm going to put something in front of it. You still see the city behind it. Put some lights in here, color grade it, a little bit of depth of field there, and give it some color. And then I am just going to show you what my background looks like. Okay, so this is basically my background. Now you notice the background is moving in that downward direction. This is once again because I've given it the tracking data that I extracted from the green screen that I showed you previously. Let me just stop it right here just to show you what the background looks like. So I've got my background. Okay, got my background, got my key of the foreground over here, which I showed you before. So now what I want to do is I want to take the matte that I've created, marry it with the RGB information, which is the woman on the green screen, so that I can put it on the background. So this is that over here. So this is basically me taking the green screen, putting and the alpha channel or the matte, putting that together and putting this over the background. Right there. Okay, so now we've got her on the background, and you can see that there are some problems over here. One of the first things that you're going to notice is that I've got all of this green edging around her. Why do I have that? Well, because initially she was on a green screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to despill her. Despilling means that any of the green that is on her edges or any of the green that is on her body because she was, say, contaminated, by some of the green. A lot of times, some of the green will reflect on certain parts of her body. Like you can see that over here. I know that there's some green on the edges, but some of it is being contaminated on her body. We want to despill that. And by despilling it, you'll see that I automatically replace the green by an opposite color of the green on the color wheel. So we've despilled it, which means I've gotten rid of all the green, but I'm still got a problem over here in that I've got this, outline around it. So what do we do about the outline? Now, what we saw before was that I checked my mat and my mat was perfectly intact with the green screen element. Sometimes people may do this, which is just erode the mat, and by eroding the mat, you can see that I got rid of that edge. You never want to do that. The reason why you never want to do that is because when you go look at the final version of this, if somebody checks that or ABs it next to the original, which I'm going to do right now, you will see that I'm eating into this. Let me just gamma this up. So you see, this is where her arm is supposed to be. This is where it is. And this is because I've eroded it. So you never, ever, ever want to do this. So let's put this away. But I do need to deal with this edge that I'm getting. The reason why I'm getting the edge, by the way, is because the green screen, or should I say the level of the green screen, is brighter than the background that I have. If my background, I'll show you real quick. If my background had a bright area on it, let me just do this over here. You'll notice that I don't have the problem with the edge. Why? Because the level of the green screen was bright and my background is bright, and then all of a sudden I seem to not have that problem. But in this case, that's not the case. This is my background. This is my green screen element. So I have to make do with what I've got. So what we do usually in cases like this is we go and color correct simply the edges, or sometimes we add things that are called an edge extend. I'll show you what that looks like. So this is my element that was on the green screen. In this over here right now, though, it's despilled. And what I'm going to do here is I am going to extend the edges. So what that does is it takes just these pixels over here and it pushes them out. By doing that, what happens is that when I put it on the background, I no longer have those bright pixels. You see that? Because it's pushed those pixels out. And the most important thing of all this is that, once again, when I compare this to the original green screen, because you just always got to keep doing that, when I compare it to the original green screen, you'll see that I am 1-to-1, which means that I have not eroded her at all. This is what I want. Let me just stop share for 1 second. I just want to check the chats over here. Yes, basically what they're saying is post any questions you have. Once we finish this little demo, I am going to see if I can answer some questions. And if I don't have any questions, I'll move on to another demo. So let me keep going with this. Okay, so let's go. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically edge extending different parts of the image. So there's a whole bunch of these edge extends that I'm doing. And once again, I'm going to put her on the background. Let's just look at just this. So now I've got her on the background in the color that I want. I've got the background that I want. I've got the edges the way I like them. There's one other thing that I still need to do to the background. And that is, if you look at the original image of the actress, when they filmed her, they put these flickering lights. So what I decided to do was build my background so that I had some red lights over here that are flickering, so that, it makes sense to have those red lights on her body. And then over and above that, what I decided to do was to also create a little bit more flicker onto the background. You're going to see that. Let me just buffer a few more frames over here. So you're going to see that there's just a slight flickering that you can see over here. And I wanted to do that just so that it matches the overall feel of the woman and the flickering that's happening on the woman. Another thing that you're going to notice when you look at this is that when they shot her, once again, they added some rain. You can see it right over here on her body. I'm going to gamma it up so that it could be a little bit more clear. So you see these lines over here? This is rain that they added to her. So what I did, or what we did, is we asked the effects department to create some CG rain for us, and CG being computer-generated rain. And so I took this over here and put that over the comp as well. So now not only do I have the rain on her body, I've also got some rain in the background. Last but not least, I'm going to put a little bit of edge wrap on her. Edge wrap is where we take the background in its state with all of the color correction, all the tracking, and I basically create an edge around her that I'm going to add to her so that it feels that she sits into the plate a little bit better. So I'm going to exaggerate this just so that you can see what it looks like. So you see over here, basically what it's doing is it's taking these parts of the background over here. I'll show you. So you see like this over here, and it's wrapping it around her edges. This is too much, but it's simply there just so that she can just sit into the background a little bit better. So there we have her. We have keyed her out, color corrected her, fixed all of her edges, despilled her, created a background, and the final scene looks something like this. Let me just move this over here, and I need to keep moving my bar over here. And so let's just play this. Okay, so there you have it. Let's just wait for it to buffer, and then I'll just play at 24 frames per second. And there you go. So there we have the actress on the background. Okay, let me just see if I have any questions. AI assistant helping Santos. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to move on to another demo right now. And what we're going to look at is another thing that we do very, very often in visual effects, which is de-aging. I'm sure you've seen a lot of this in movies lately. So let's try to demystify what that looks like. And let me actually, I'm going to stop share for 1 second over here. Somebody just said it's super cool. Okay, so somebody's asking me a question here, and I'm just going to read the question, which is how to not be in such a horrible place when you see all of this happening to the VFX industry, and then you are forced to consider a different career. What could one do to stay in the industry and work, which we deeply love to do? Please guide. So I can tell you by experience what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say it out loud if this person is listening. So from my experience, I have been in this industry for almost 30 years right now. And it's something that, I'm used to this industry having a lot of ups and downs. All I can say is that every time there's been a down, and I've been through a writer strike twice now in this industry, this last one, and I've also been through a writer strike back in 2007 that went from November of 2007 to February of 2008. And all I can say is that every time it's down, it goes back up. And every time it goes back up, it goes back up bigger and stronger. So all I can suggest to you all is to just stick with it, be patient, and just keep learning. I know that there's so many people are talking to me about AI and what do I do about AI? Embrace it. The more you just keep learning, the more you just embrace the new things that are coming to you, when the industry picks up again, and I know it will, hopefully very soon, you'll be ready for it. So once again, all I can say is that through my own experience, I've experienced this a lot. I can just say be patient and stick with it. So let's move into another demo, and then I'll see if there's any more questions, and I'll try to answer more questions. So let's look at some de-aging right now. Like I said, this is something that we do a lot, and I'm going to just start by showing you. This image over here. So here's a gentleman that we want to make 10 to 15 years younger. And this is something that a lot of times, people are showing me apps and saying, hey, look at this app. It does it so well, blah, blah, blah. And then I look at it and I'm just like, yeah, but the person just looks like a very blurry image. One of the most important things whenever you're de-aging someone is that you need to remove whatever it is that we want to remove. Like in this case over here, I want to remove some of the bags under his eyes. I want to, recolor some of the red blotchiness on his skin. I want to remove some of the deep wrinkles. Blurring something is obviously an easy way to do it. Here, let's just take a look at that real quick over here. Let's just take a blur node. And let's just go under the eye over here. Okay. And I'm just going to do this over here like this. I'm going to take this blur node and there you have it. Okay, wrinkles removed, right? Wrong. So the wrinkles are removed, yes, but this doesn't look right. So a lot of times this is something, it's one of the things that I see a lot is the face. People will take these apps and they'll take a face and they'll just basically blur the entire face. The one thing that you have to always consider is that when you are removing anything from a person's face, like in this case, we want to remove the wrinkles, you have to make sure that we keep the skin intact. So in this case over here, what I'm going to start with showing you is that, let's say I wanted to take out, here, let me just take these two out over here. Let's say I want to just start smoothing out this wrinkle over here. The first thing I'm going to do is build a mat around this area. And then what I'm going to do is take his actual skin and merge it over it. So here's another example over here. I'm going to take this part of his eye over here. And let me just put this to 0 over here. So you see, I still have the wrinkles here. So how do I remove these wrinkles? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take skin from, sometimes I call it skin grafting. I'm going to take skin from another part of his face and move it up. So you're going to see over here with this node that I have, I'm going to start moving parts of his cheek up. See that? And by doing so, what I'm doing is I'm removing the wrinkles, but there's still some skin texture there. And that's the important thing that we always have to keep in mind, is that you don't just want to remove something, you want to remove it, but by replacing it with with his real skin. Because if we are trying to make him look 10 to 15 years younger, when he didn't have those wrinkles, he still had pores there and the skin still had a certain texture. So there's a combination of how much do I blur to take away some of the blemishes and how much detail do I put back in. There's a concept or a node that we use called frequency separation. Basically, what frequency separation is all about is something that allows you to blur and bring down back detail. So you see over here, if I blur this a lot, I'm basically making it look like a really blurred image. So I can blur this to a certain extent and then bring back some of the pore details so that the wrinkles are gone, but the pores are back in. And like I said before, it's sort of a marriage between high frequency, which is the details. So in this case, what would details be? They would be like the eyelids, what's the bottom of the eyelid, the hairs on his eyebrows, and the low frequency, which is the areas that don't have any details, like this doesn't have any detail. One example that I'm going to show you right now is, let me just take this off of my screen over here. If you look at this image over here, this is a composite of two faces, okay? One of them has a lot of detail in it. The other has barely any detail in it. So if I shrink this image, if I make it a smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, all of a sudden you see Marilyn Monroe. So those are the two images that I've comped together. It's Marilyn Monroe and Albert Einstein. The Marilyn Monroe image has no detail on it. The Albert Einstein image has a lot of detail on it. So this marriage of high frequency and low frequency is basically how much do I blur it and how much detail do I put back in. So let's go through one of these shots over here. So in this case here, I've got this actress, and the mandate for this was that they wanted her to look 10 years younger. So at first we started by, just taking a look at this, and, right off the bat, you can see that, I've got to fix her roots over here. I've got to color those. There's, there's wrinkles under her eye. They're not too bad, but there are some wrinkles under her eyes that I want to take out, some over here too. There's some drooping that's happening over here that I want to lift. There's, quite a few blemishes. I want to fix the neck. The neck is starting to look a little bit wrinkly over here. And I also want to tuck some of the chin in. The other really difficult part of this shot is that she starts the shot with some sunglasses on. So whatever work I have to do when she has the sunglasses on, I'm going to have to do differently to when she removes the sunglasses. So the first thing that I do with this is I take the original image and I start to basically remove some of the blemishes. It may be a little bit hard to see because I'm really starting really small over here. So I'm going to keep going with this. So you see, I've just removed another blemish. So these are very small blemishes. There you go. I've taken out some wrinkles. Let's go to the end of this group of nodes. And you can see that in doing this, I have removed all of the blemishes for now. And, some minor wrinkles, right? So you see, these are gone. This is gone over here. Just anything on the nose, even these, that's all gone. Now we're going to do what we did before with the gentleman, where I'm going to do a little bit of skin grafting. So I'm going to start with what I have over here. First thing that I did here is I'm trying to just fix the color over here and start by removing some of the wrinkles under her screen right eye. Again, how do I do this? I'm basically taking parts of her skin and moving it up. So just trying to find parts of her skin that don't have a lot of detail, and I move it up over here so that I've removed the wrinkles. Then I take something called a spline warp, and what I do with this is I want to basically fix, you see this little droopiness that she has in the eye? I want this to go back up over here. Okay, so I do that to this eye. And there you go. I've lifted the whole thing up. I'm going to do it to her other eye. So let's watch this over here. There you go. So now I've fixed the droopiness on her upper eyelid. Let's take this over here. And I've removed the wrinkles. Now let's do a little bit of color to this. Okay, so add a little bit of makeup over here. Give a little color to the lips. And a little bit to the eyes. What we wanted to do with the eyes is that we wanted to just, make the glints just a little bit brighter. And fix what we call, this is called the mental crease over here in the chin. See that? This one over here was what we call the marionette lines. See those right over here? Okay. And then we'll work on the hair a little bit. So for the hair, what I wanted to start by doing was first just neutralizing it. And the mandate was just to remove some of the gray. We didn't have to recolor her hair. So I started by just neutralizing it, and then we played around a little bit with the actual hair color. Then, like I said before, we also had to take care of the first part over here, because remember what I said, we took out all of the wrinkles when the glasses were off. So we had to redo all of this in a different way. So now I'm going to do kind of the same kind of thing over there, except this time I'm going to do it to what's over here with the glasses. So let's fix all of the sunglasses. And then last but not least, there's still the hand. You can see that there's a little bit of liver spots in her hands over here. So I removed those. And there you have it. We're going to play this over here. So this is the difference between A and B with the glasses on. And A and B with the glasses off. Okay. So it is, again, the mandate for this. Let me just play the render over here. The mandate for this was just a simple 10 to 15 years is what they wanted removed. So let's just play this. And there you have it. So, there's a lot of tracking, which is something that I mentioned before, that's involved, because every little shape that I create has to move with her face. So if her face is looking down, if she's turning it in one direction or the other direction, I need to be able to track these shapes so that they follow everything that I'm doing. And there you have it. So there's the actress, 15 years younger. This was for a flashback scene. And she's basically staring at someone. And then, basically they switched back to, the rest of the movie where she was just her normal self. Okay, let's stop share again. Let me look at some other question. Super cool. Yes, thank you so much. Whoa, sorcery. That's amazing. Bit of a fountain, a fountain of youth. Yes, this is true. I do want to also say that a lot of times when we're doing this type of work, it's something that a lot of people, will sometimes criticize, because they'll say, my God, the standards that we have by being able to do something like this, how do we, how are we supposed to, maintain things like that? But I always say, we're doing it for a reason. We're doing it for a movie. We're doing it because rather than cast another actor who is, say, like 20 years younger, you can basically take the actor that you already have to do the work. Someone's asking me if I have a YouTube channel. Not yet. I'm working on something else that I will talk to the BRIC Foundation about in a couple of months, but I do not have a YouTube channel. So it's about 4:46. Um, let's look at something else. Are you guys up for it? I think so. I think we've got about 10 minutes left. Let's look at another demo. And if I see that there's more questions popping, yes, please. Okay, yay. So if I see that there's more questions coming up, I will I will try to answer them. Um, okay, so let me share this. Oh, there's also somebody said that there's, yeah, before I do that, wait a minute. Somebody said that there's some questions in the Q&A. There are. Uh okay, let me answer these. Let me answer these before diving into another demo because this is important over here. How would you recommend the beginner to start learning how to do VFX? There's a lot of different ways, and I know that a lot of times, people go on YouTube and they they'll look at these little demos and they'll learn how to do something, um which is good, which is good. There's nothing wrong with that, but my suggestion to anybody is find a good school, because it's sort of it's like a combination. It's not just material, it's not just information. There's a lot of information out there, but what I feel really makes a big difference, even in students that I teach, artists that I hire, are the ones who not only know how to push a few buttons and could make something look good, but it's really the ones that understand what they're doing. And so I really think that it's really, really, really important that you find a school, that is teaching visual effects, and there are a lot of them out there. I could post the name of the school that I work for, which I will put that in the chat later. But find someone, a mentor, who can lead you through this process, in not only teaching you what it's all about, but why things look a certain way. Hey, Fortunato, is Nuke the only industry standard software? I've noticed that certain production houses still use Flame. I used Flame. I started on Flame. I used Flame for about, I say, like the good first 12 years of my career. And Flame, I feel, is being used more for commercial work. It's an incredible software. I'm not going to lie about it, but Nuke is really what is being used in the film industry. Uh, I would say, I would say probably 90% of people are using Nuke. Flame is being used, but I do see it a lot for film work. I have used DaVinci as well. I like to use DaVinci to do a lot of editing work. I think it's a good tool, but why, I'm not just pushing Nuke. Why? Because I use it. The reason I'm pushing Nuke is because this is what they are using in the industry predominantly. So and Nuke is a product that you can easily download. There's a lot of like education licenses that you can download. That for a lot of people, if you just want to, play around and see what it looks, what it looks like, they'll give you like a free license that I forget. It used to be 2 to 3 weeks that you can have a free license, but it's a great tool. As you suggested, taking this VFX industry strike break out as an advantage to the education ourselves, I'm seeking guidance. What are some reputable online platforms or websites that offer advanced courses in new compositing? And are there any specific courses you would recommend for someone aiming to enhance their skills in visual effects compositing? Moreover, where can one access high quality footage? That's a tough one. High quality footage suitable for practicing compositing. There is high quality footage. There's a certain site, and it's escaping me right now, because at our school we shoot everything. We just basically, we take our cameras, we go out and we shoot everything, because we want it not only to look as cinematic as possible, but we want it to also take it to a level that it's very, very difficult. Action VFX, I have used a lot. I like it. I think they have a lot of stuff, and that is one that I would definitely recommend. It's one of the first ones that I've seen that really has a lot of stuff that I think is very, very useful. Before I go on, let me just put in the chat. Um, let me just put in the chat. Um, the name of the school that I'm working for right now. So if anybody is, looking for something, if you want to check it out, you can check it out. Where, we've got different types of classes. We've got like 5-month courses, that are available to people. I do want to answer the last part of this question over here, which is, I do want to mention something, because you do mention to build a strong show reel. Those are the last, three words that that are in this question. Like I said before, action VFX, I like it. I like it very much. The one drawback to things like that, and this is something that I've encountered a lot when I was hiring people, is that sometimes you want your demo reel to be unique. You want it to look unique. And what I feel is that with things like action VFX, you'll find like a lot of people that have the same footage. And so it's very difficult for you to stand out. And even then, unless you really have a mentor that's really pushing you, and I always tell people, and this has been my own experience, even as an artist, is that it's very easy to take something to like 75 or 80%. It's that last 20% that really separates something that looks good and something that looks amazing. And a lot of times it takes someone to guide you through that, someone to point out, hey, look, some of these edges aren't working. Hey, look, you may need to add a little bit more shadow here at the end. Since I don't have any questions, let me show you what I mean by that over here. So, if I take an image like this over here, all right, so I'm going to take this image over here. I've got to, this is, let's do an homage to the Oscars, since we had the Oscars last weekend. So here's the background. This background, it doesn't have such a crazy move. It's got a candle over here, but it doesn't have such a crazy move. It's just basically panning. And what they gave me was this CG element of an Academy Award. So let's put the Academy Award on the background over here. Okay. I'm going to put the Academy Award on the background. Now, you can see that this is not sitting into the plate properly. Number one, my plate is very warm. There's a lot of warm lighting in the plate, so it's got a lot of like yellows and reds. Even the base, this is supposed to be like a black marble base. Look at the blacks that you see over here on this card. They're different. So, it's one thing to just put something in a plate, but it's another thing to be able to go through all of the passes on this and start affecting them. Like in this case over here, I'm adding some more reflections. I'm changing the color of the base over here. And just keep going with this. So you could see, I've just all of a sudden over here, I've warmed up the Oscar, because like I said before, to me, the Oscar felt, it felt too cool. I'm adding the rings over here on the bottom, and I'm just going to keep going with it. But, there's certain things where, like even in this case over here, I needed more shadows, because, the hands of the Oscars are covering this. So it's, it's going to cast a little bit of a shadow over there. And those are the little things that sometimes you look at it as far as just the color and you say, this looks good. But then somebody will be able to point something out to you, which is, hey, how's about adding a little bit more light over here on the edge? How about maybe putting a light over here? And then the rest of it, is just basically fine tuning it until you get to the point where, in this case over here, I even add a little bit of a shadow over there till you get to the point where it actually looks like it sits into the plate. I've got two more questions here. What company do I work for? So the name of the school that I work for, I was working for MPC, the moving picture company, and then I started teaching, and now I'm teaching predominantly. And the name of the school that I work for, which again I'm going to put it over here in the chat, it's Campus VFX. So that is the name of the school that I'm working for. Let me go into the Q&A. I hope I can answer these in the next 3 minutes. Can individuals with color Yes, I've had so far in the 5 years that I've been teaching, I've had 4 students that have color blindness, and again, they have a hard time with red and green. And especially even in a shot like this over here, they had such a hard time, working with the red and the green, but you can separate channels over here. So if I look at something like this, you'll see that we're just looking at the red channel, and notice over here, her dress is red, right? And so you see how bright this is. When I look at the green channel, you see how dark this is. So what this is telling you over here is that there is more red in here than there is green. So I'm not saying that it's an easy process, but we kind of work with it more on a mathematical level, and they do succeed. I actually have one student right now who has color blindness, and yeah, I mean, we work together, we work through it every day. What type of certification do you need to teach? Well, so you see, I spent 25 years as a visual effects compositor, compositing supervisor, and even a visual effects supervisor. So when I went to teach, I didn't really have a certification, but but in that time span that I've been teaching, in the 5 years that I've been teaching, I did my master's degree in digital art. So see, that depends. This is a very good question, because it depends where you are going to go and teach. There are certain schools that will, require a certain certification, and then there are certain private schools which are going to be happy to have someone in the school that have, a lot of experience. Because, like I said before, being a teacher, especially in this field, is not just about, knowing how to composite, but it's basically knowing how to explain what it is that we do. I think that is it. Thank you for your time today. Well, I thank you for allowing me to do this. So I'm going to say bye to everyone. And if you have any questions, let me just put my email address over here. This is my professional email address over here. Please feel free to write me anytime. Will I be at GDC? No, I will not. I will not. I'm actually sitting in Montreal right now. So, but you have my email address. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I would love to comply. Thank you. Oh, the email is in the chat. The email is in the chat. Did you not see it? Here, let me just say it. It's Fortunato, which is my first name, which you see right over here, at campusvfx.com. Do I have a LinkedIn? Oh, absolutely. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Yeah, just go to Fortunato Frattasio on LinkedIn. You'll probably see my backsplash is a bunch of movie posters for movies that I've worked on. Or go to my IMDb, you'll see some of the films that I've worked on. There you go. Somebody just put my email address over there. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off. And again, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to do this with you. I had a great time. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. You're so welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.